Hey, Rich Cochran. Hey, I want to talk to you today about the idea of finishing and accomplishing the things that you really want to accomplish. Here's the way you start. The first thing is, I want you to take a blank piece of paper. Maybe it's just a sheet of white paper. Maybe it's a piece of paper in a journal. Maybe it's in your notebook. And I want you to start brainstorming and writing down everything you want to do for the rest of your life. The big things in your career, the big things you want to do with your kids, little things you want to do, things you want to learn, things you want to take your kids to see, places you want to travel, things you want to learn to cook, maybe learn a new language. I want you to write it all down. Maybe it's a number of books you want to read. Big, small, write them all down. This allows us to begin looking at the things that we want to accomplish. Sometimes we call it a bucket list, a to-do list, a set of goals. You can call it whatever you want, but the most important thing is you write it down, you start a list, and you keep it in front of you. Now, I think there are three things, there's probably many things, but three things that keep us from doing those things on the list that you're going to write down. The first is obstacles. There are going to be real obstacles that keep you from doing the things on your list. One of the things you need to do is by beginning to list different obstacles to each of the different goals on your piece of paper, is you begin to think differently. You begin to find ways to overcome those obstacles. You know, sometimes we don't do things because we don't think we can. And when we write it down, when we look at it, we begin to write down the obstacles to accomplishing a task, then it becomes more real. We'll use this for an example. One of the things on my list is so small, so trivial, but it's going to be so good once I learn to do it. I want to learn to smoke a brisket. Being from Texas, we love our brisket. I want to learn to smoke my own brisket. Now, right now, one of the obstacles to me accomplishing that task or doing that is I don't have a smoker. Okay, that's an obstacle. But you know what? That's an easy obstacle to overcome. You know, a lot of the obstacles may not be that simple as just go to the store, set aside a little bit of money, and go buy it and make it happen. But when you write down your obstacles, you begin to find ways to overcome. If you never write down the things you want to do, you never write down the obstacles, good chance it's always going to be, well, I wish I would have. Let's not look back 20, 30, 40 years from now and go, man, why didn't I? Let's find ways to overcome our obstacles. The second thing are excuses. Now, you know this as good as I do. I make excuses, and so do you. I'm not alone. We all make excuses. Sometimes the excuses we make are just simply foolish. You know, I found that if there's something I want to do, and I tell a good friend, somebody who wants to see me be successful, sometimes as I begin to share reasons why it can't happen, what I find is they're not reasons at all. It's just excuses. And when I say it out loud, I begin to think, that doesn't make much sense. That's just simply an excuse, putting off. You know what? I don't want to look back and go, wow, why did I make so many excuses? Sometimes we find the obstacles that we think are obstacles are really just excuses on why we aren't making happen what we want to happen. Let's stop making excuses. Let's be willing to call an excuse and step away. And let's find ways to do big things. Let's find ways to do the small things that we love to do. So you got obstacles, you've got excuses. The third thing is limitations. These things are real. These are things that are physical. These things are true limitations to us accomplishing things we want to do. Now, I'm not a person that believes that just because you write it down, you can make it happen. Good example. I can't be a pro basketball player. Why? I have a major, huge gravity problem. I can't overcome. That's a limitation that keeps me from accomplishing that? You know, when we begin to recognize our limitations, we begin to see things and find ways to do the things that we want. Well, here's what I mean. A few years ago, I was working for an organization. We were in the middle of a big building project. And it was in East Tennessee, and everything, you had to blast rock to build anything there in the mountains. And so in the process of building that building and blasting that rock, the contractor cut the main water into our main building where all of the action happened. Well, they told us there's no way we can put water back in there until we're finished. Well, we didn't ask questions. We just kind of said, well, okay. You know what? If we had asked the question, if we had written down that limitation, if we had actually even really had a good conversation about it, we would have found that there were other ways to go about putting water in that building. Turns out, for about $7,000 or $8,000, we could have had water in that building within a week. And you know what's even worse? We had to spend that money anyway. So why not just go ahead and make it happen? You see, there was a limitation. There was a response to that limitation that came up, and we just said, well, okay. And we do that with ourselves. We begin to think, well, I never can because, and we fill in the blank. And we're missing out on accomplishing so many different things. We need to write down our limitations. Now, just because you write it down doesn't mean you can overcome it. But with it being written down, you can begin to brainstorm and think about and ask questions to, how do we overcome our obstacles, our excuses, and our limitations? You see, you really can do more of what you want to do. You just got to have a plan. You just got to have a course of action. Let's start making the things we love happen. Hey, down below, leave a comment. You know, it may be that this is the first time you actually write down something you want to accomplish. Go ahead and put it out there. You know what? Let's not leave things undone because we just simply didn't put it out there and come up with a way to make it happen. Hey, thanks for taking a few minutes. Thanks for reading the blog. Hope you have a great day.